Hi, everybody. Welcome to My Favorite Mistake. I'm Mark Graven, and we are joined today by Karyn Ross. Karyn, how are you?
I'm doing totally fabulous. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well. And Karyn is the co-author of The Toyota Way to Service Excellence, Lean Transformation in Service Organizations. She's the author of How to Coach for Creativity and Service Excellence. And a little bit later on, I'll ask you, Karyn, to tell us about your upcoming book that you've just signed a deal for. We'll call that a teaser, I guess,
Cool.
if you don't mind. But what would you say, thinking back, what's your favorite mistake?
Well, first of all, I love this topic. And when you invited me to be on this podcast, one of the things that was really fun was thinking back on all of the different kinds of mistakes that I've made. And people who follow me on LinkedIn will see that I regularly posts about stuff that doesn't go right. And then I thought about this one story, and I really wanted to share it with you, Mark, and with everybody who watches, because I think that it was really significant in my life. So, although we're now not traveling due to COVID, probably for the last 10 years, I traveled almost full time, both for Karyn Ross Consulting, my own business, and also for some of the corporate organizations that I worked with before. So, in the last corporate job I had before I started working for myself, I traveled all around the USA. I traveled to a different place every week. And so O'Hare Airport is my home away from home.
Right.
And I'm sure you have this too when you go to the airport. People who travel frequently, we're just kind of existing in the airport. We're doing all kinds of other things. We kind of have the flow. We know where to go. We know what to do. We do things in the same standard way. And for some reason, and I can't remember what the reason was, I actually didn't follow my standard. That morning I got to O'Hare, and instead of checking my bag, which I always do because I have a problem with my shoulder, so it's not so easy for me to lift the bag up, and I decided I'd keep the bag with me. And I went through security, and I sat down somewhere near the gate, but not right at the gate, and I started checking email.
Hmm.
And I got really involved in checking email, and then someone called me, and it was with a work problem that made me really frustrated. And I was really frustrated because I thought the attitude of the person who was calling me was not the right lean attitude. And I was really frustrated. And then I heard that they called that my gate was changed. So I got up, and I was still actually on the phone complaining now to somebody else.
Right.
And I walked to the gate, and I sat down. And what did I realize after a few moments? I didn't bring my suitcase with me.
Oh, no.
And it was one of those really nice black Travel Pro expensive suitcases. And when I realized I didn't have my suitcase, I got up and I ran back to where I had been sitting. Was the suitcase there? No. And then I went, and there's a place where there's police at O'Hare, and I went and I told them the thing, and they said, well, suitcases get stolen all of the time. And then I went back, and they said, you have to go downstairs, your baggage claim, to report this. So I went and I did that, and then I went back through security, and then I got on the plane without my suitcase, and I just had my backpack for a week-long business trip. And when I got to where I was going, I got off the plane, and someone was there to pick me up, and I said, oh, hello. Before we go anywhere, I will need to go to a shopping mall because all I have is this backpack. And so I went and I bought a new suitcase, and I bought a bunch of new clothes and toiletries. Actually, it's quite amazing when you think about it, what you pack for even 1 week, and you think about what you might need.
Right.
And I was okay. I'm a person who does a lot of reflection. So I really thought about this and thought about this and thought about this. And when I got home after the week, something occurred to me. And this is why it was my best mistake ever. Because it occurred to me that the reason that my suitcase had been stolen was that I actually was paying attention to something that I didn't need to be paying attention to. That I didn't need to be frustrated. I didn't need to be angry. That instead of being in the moment where I was distracted actually from the important things in life by actually something that was really unimportant. So in that moment, what I decided is actually that the universe had taken the opportunity to give me a very good lesson. So now when people ask me about it, they say, well, someone stole your suitcase. I said, no one stole my suitcase. The universe took my suitcase to remind me that actually we always have a choice. We can think negatively and unkindly and be frustrated with people when we probably don't know the full extent of the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we can actually choose to be in the moment, to understand that person has their point of view. I have my point of view. When I get to where I'm going, instead of complaining about that person, I could actually call them. I could talk to them. There's a variety of different things I could do, but I could keep my mind on the moment. And when I got home, I got a different suitcase. And the different suitcase was a beautiful, colorful suitcase that said happy, nature, peaceful, and free on it. And I actually amended my standard and I stopped checking my suitcase. And I started carrying my suitcase with me. And every time I looked at it, it reminded me, no matter where I was, to keep my mind and my attention on the important things. And can you imagine how many conversations I had with people who came up to me, who looked at my suitcase and said, that's it. And I told them all this story. So that's, I think, my best mistake.
Well, and it's good to hear about the reflection and the learning, because it's easy, I think, for us to beat ourselves up when we make a mistake. I've almost lost a suitcase in an airport once. I remember it fairly vividly. It was Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is not a very large airport.
Yep.
And it was probably within a year of 9/11. So this must have been in the year 2002, when there was especially vigilant awareness of an unattended bag. They still make announcements in the airport all the time about not leaving your bag unattended. And I had somehow wandered off without my suitcase. I don't remember why. It was probably a matter of distraction and thinking about other things. Now, I caught it soon enough where I kind of ran back over to where it had been, and police officers were just getting to the bag. And I got a bit of a scolding of don't do that again. So, easier said than done, like to be more present, to be more mindful. What are some other tips that you've learned to help turn that goal into a reality of being more in the moment? Because that's something I could use help with. I'd be the first to admit.
I use I use a lot of different kinds of visual management, because all of the things that we teach other people, they help us too. So you might think that all of my bracelets are a fashion statement, and some are, but a lot of them have sayings on them. So this one says purpose. This is from the Love and Kindness Project Foundation. So this one says create. This one says everything will be all right. So I can look down and I can see these. And that reminds me, my phone screen. I, in general, have something on my phone screen that is something for me to think about and remind me. So this says nothing exists as it appears. Nothing appears as it exists. That's the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
Every day, I practice being present in this moment. Because also for lean, when we tell people go see, we can't actually go see if our eyes aren't open to what's happening in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyday practice.
Yeah. And we might have a lot of listeners who might not be familiar with what you or what I would mean professionally by lean. And again, one of Karyn's books, co-authored with Jeffrey Liker, is titled The Toyota Way to Service Excellence. And the subtitle is Lean Transformation in Service Organizations. So what, in a nutshell, how do you explain what this lean approach or what a lean transformation means?
Sure, that's a great question. And really, the very simple way I explain it is helping people create better, more effective, efficient ways to work and serve customers. And it's a set of practices that are actually very simple to help us really think about what do our customers need and want, go see what's actually happening, and then make sure that we're creating the ways to work so that our customers get what they want when they want it right the first time.
And then, your other book, again, How to Coach for Creativity and Service Excellence. What are some, or I guess the question I really want to ask is, how do you, in terms of coaching, how would you recommend a coach help themselves be more present and mindful? How can a coach help the person that they are coaching to be more present during that coaching interaction? What are some thoughts you have on that?
I actually love that question because I think coaching helps both the coach and the person who's being coached be in the moment. When you're a coach, as a coach, my job is really to listen to people with what I call open eyes, open ears, open mind, and an open heart. That means while the person I'm coaching is talking, I'm not thinking of the answer. I'm not thinking of what I want to tell them. I'm thinking and listening about what they're telling me so that I can respond and ask them the next question that will help them think about what to do to solve the problem they're working on. I coach people in a very particular way, 3 times a week, 15 minutes a time. So we have one short topic, and then the person goes and does the work, 15 minutes between those. So again, daily practice. If you practice something every day for 15 minutes, and the reason I say 15 minutes is because we have to build up the discipline to be able, with small things, to be able to do something longer. If we practice something 15 minutes every single day, actually in a very short amount of time, we will improve. So what I'm going to ask everybody today is go home. You don't have to coach somebody, but for your spouse or your friend or your child, what I'd like you to do is sit down and just say, set your timer on your phone for 15 minutes. I'm actually going to listen. You might find that 15 minutes is too long at first. Try 5 minutes.
Right.
If that's too long, try 2 minutes. If that's too long, try 1 minute. Practice.
Yeah. Well, what you're saying there reminds me of a psychologist that I've interviewed, Robert Moore. He's written some books about the brain and continuous improvement. And what you're recommending is similar to what he teaches about starting with baby steps. That if a change seems to be too large, even if it's positive, even if we tell ourselves this would be positive, we can sort of trigger the amygdala and the fight or flight response and end up not trying because we think there's a chance we might fail. And by making that change smaller is a way of sort of trying to shortcut some of that cycle, and prove that you can do it a little bit and then build upon that.
Yes, and think about how many people January 1st every day say, I'm going to exercise for an hour a day. Why don't we say, I'm going to exercise for 1 minute a day? Like, who made up the rule?
Right. Well, that's exactly what Professor Moore recommends. He says the success rate with weight loss is much higher when somebody is given the advice. He starts at 30 seconds. Get up off the couch during a commercial. And once you've proven to yourself you can do it for 30 seconds, there's a positive boost, and then you can keep going and building up from there, as opposed to telling somebody you should start with 30 minutes. That ends up being a path to failure.
Yes. And, you know, I think like all things, and this really goes back to the topic of the podcast, is lots of times as people, we give up too easily, right? And even in the lean world, what we talk about, plan, do, check, act, right? Which is those incremental steps that we're going to take. We think, okay, here's this thing that I want to do, and I'm going to try one thing and it's going to be successful. And oh, if it's not, it doesn't happen what I want to happen, I might try a second thing, but after that, I'm out of options to try, and I've just failed. I don't look at it that way.
Yeah.
Some days I'm really super good at staying in the moment and paying attention. Some days I'm more distracted. Some days my suitcase is stolen from our airport, but it doesn't mean I give up.
Yeah.
I look back and I say, okay, what can I do to actually work on this again tomorrow?
Right.
We have a whole lifetime we've been given to practice and learn things. There's things that I've been working on since I'm a child. I'm still working on them now.
Sure. So, final thing I want to touch on, you've recently signed a deal for a new book. I'll let you tell the listeners and the viewers the title that you're working on.
I'm super excited, and the new book is called The Kind Leader, and it's a practical guide to leading with kindness, as well as the lean work that I do. I also have a foundation called the Love and Kindness Project Foundation. Right. And that foundation fosters projects that create more love and kindness in the world, again, in tiny little ways. And one of the things I've really noticed is there's a lot of unkindness going around in the world. Unfortunately. And we all, whether we're in leadership positions at work or not, we actually all lead someone, whether it's at home, whether it's on a team of kids that we coach, or, things like that. We all have the opportunity to lead with kindness, because what leaders do and say, the people they lead follow. So I'm super excited. The book is going to be out in late spring, early summer, and I have a newsletter that people can sign up for, and I'll be sending out a weekly tip and information that I'm learning from my research and writing, because we don't need to wait to lead with kindness. We need to start now.
Well, that's a great thought, and Karyn Ross Consulting.com is the webpage. That's Karyn Ross Consulting.com. So final question, maybe it's just to tie everything together. When we make mistakes, we may have a tendency to be unkind toward ourselves. So what are your thoughts about leading oneself, being kind, and staying in a mode where we can reflect and learn from a mistake instead of just being upset at ourselves?
I think that's a great question. And what I would suggest is, in that moment when your inner voice starts that track of all those unkind things, to step out for a moment and say, if this happened to someone else, if this happened to my friend, if this happened and they came to me and told me this, what would I say to them? Because chances are what you're saying to yourself is not what you would say to them. And actually say out loud the words that you would say to someone else if they came and told you about that mistake, because then you'll hear those words. And we have to be kind to others. We have to think kindly, speak kindly, and act kindly to others. But we need to think kindly, speak kindly, and act kindly to ourselves as well. Because you know what? It's only a mistake. And it's okay. You'll get a new suitcase.
You'll get some new clothes. Yeah.
and you'll get a lesson which you can learn from and carry with you and help others for the rest of your life.
Well, it's great advice, and it's very kind of you to share it. I mean that. It's kind of you to be here as a guest on the podcast. So again, we've been joined by Karyn Ross. Karyn Ross Consulting is her company. And again, her books that you can get now are The Toyota Way to Service Excellence, and then her follow-up, How to Coach for Creativity and Service Excellence. And then Karyn also, and I'll make sure this is all in the show notes, where can people find, what's the website for the Love and Kindness Project?
Love and Kindness is loveandkindnessproject.org. And actually, we have 2 books from the foundation, which I'm going to show you.
Oh,
Think
that's great.
Kindly, Be Kindly, Act Kindly, which is free and easy ideas for you to use to start your kindness practice today. And for those of you with kids, Big Karma and Little Cosmo help each other. These are really my dog and cat. And honestly, if they can get along and help each other, there is no reason any of us cannot.
Well, that's great. So I invite everyone to go check that out. Thank you for making sure we mentioned all of your books, Karyn, and thank you for everything that you do. You're someone I consider to be a positive influence in my life. So thank you for that, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.